If you think 3 kids are hard to handle, try doing it under the watchful eyes of a man who owns half the city. The rain was relentless, hammering against the Blacktown car as I parked awkwardly on the circular driveway of the Blackwood estate, my worn leather shoes slipping slightly on the slick stone. My heart pounded in my chest, a rhythm that refused to match the calm I tried to portray as I stepped out, clutching the oversized tote bag that carried my meager belongings for the next 48 hours. The triplets, of course, were already wreaking havoc inside, their laughter echoing through the high ceilings, bouncing off chandeliers and priceless oil paintings. Oliver's small fist slammed against the piano keys. Max's sneakers squeaked across polished floors as he chased Lily, who shrieked with glee, trailing a ribbon in her hand like a tiny whirlwind. I swallowed hard, trying to memorize the floor plan from the blurry photograph my friend had sent, but the moment I opened the double doors, a sharp gust of wind carried the chaos right to me, knocking the bag from my arms and spilling a few mismatched socks onto the marble floor. I bent to grab them, praying I wouldn't trip over the Persian rugs that seemed to multiply with every step I took, and that's when I felt it, the presence. Tall, commanding, and impossibly still even in the midst of this domestic hurricane. Ethan Blackwood emerged from the study, black tailored suit perfectly pressed, hair slicked back, eyes that could freeze a storm, scanning me like a predator assessing a prey. I froze mid-motion, the air thick with tension, the sound of the triplets' laughter suddenly distant, as if the room had contracted around the two of us. He said nothing at first, just studied the way I straightened my bag and tucked stray strands of chestnut hair behind my ears. I tried to meet his gaze, but it was like looking into a glacier, cold, calculating, but not unkind, yet terrifying nonetheless. A small shiver ran down my spine, and I reminded myself that I was here to do a job, not to impress or be intimidated. "You have 48 hours, he finally said, his voice low and steady, echoing slightly in the grand hall. 48 hours to survive my children. My lips parted, words stuck somewhere in the back of my throat. The triplets had paused, sensing a shift in the air, their eyes darting toward their father and then back to me. I can do this, I whispered, though the tremor in my voice betrayed me. Ethan gave a faint nod, then turned, walking with deliberate steps back toward the study, leaving me alone with 3 children whose energy seemed infinite. I bent down to Lily's level first, picking up the ribbon she had dropped, trying to offer a small smile. "Hi, I'm Hannah," I said gently. Oliver and Max exchanged mischievous glances, their next move unpredictable, a tiny storm of chaos waiting to break. I took a deep breath, trying to remember every parenting tip I'd read, every story I'd told myself about patience and perseverance, and then acted. I offered Lily the ribbon, and she accepted, surprisingly calm for half a second, long enough for me to feel a flicker of hope. Oliver lunged toward a pile of building blocks, knocking a chair over, and I reacted quickly, scooping him up and redirecting his energy toward a puzzle on the floor. Max, not to be outdone, attempted to tip over a small table, but a quick step to the side and a gentle hand on his shoulder distracted him long enough for me to prevent a spill. The 3 of them froze momentarily, caught between curiosity and defiance, and I realized that small victories mattered. Each tiny concession, each moment of obedience, was a foothold in this unfamiliar territory. Ethan reappeared briefly at the threshold, eyes narrowing slightly, and I sensed his silent assessment. My pulse raced, not from fear this time, but from the awareness that every move I made was being cataloged. I whispered under my breath, more to myself than anyone else. "You've got this, Hannah." And as I arranged the scattered toys and socks, the storm outside matched the storm inside, both roaring relentlessly, yet I felt the first spark of control, a delicate flame against the hurricane that was Blackwood Manor. The morning sun had just begun to creep through the tall windows of the Blackwood estate, casting long, golden streaks across the polished hardwood floors. Hannah paused at the foot of the grand staircase, her eyes scanning the scene of organized chaos that had been the triplets during the night. Oliver had managed to scatter a collection of wooden trains across the living room. Max had discovered a container of colored chalk and left bright streaks across the marble, and Lily was perched precariously on the arm of the sofa, holding a stuffed rabbit in one hand and a crayon in the other. She inhaled slowly, letting the scent of freshly baked bread from the kitchen mingle with the faint aroma of polished wood and lavender from the morning cleaning. This was her world for the next 48 hours, a battlefield of laughter, mischief, and unexpected tenderness. Carefully, she set down the basket she had carried in from the car, filled with cereal boxes, fruit, and ingredients for pancakes. Her hands moved quickly, almost rehearsed, as she laid out the breakfast items on the large marble island, making a mental map of each child's preferred foods and sensitivities, small details she had gathered during the few hours she had spent observing them. The triplets' attention was drawn to the kitchen, and she could hear Ethan's measured footsteps behind her as he entered the room, his presence filling the space with a quiet authority that demanded attention even when he said nothing. He watched her assemble the bowls, knives, and plates with a subtle nod, his piercing blue eyes flicking from her movements to the children, assessing, calculating, yet revealing nothing of his thoughts. Hannah felt a flush rise to her cheeks, not from embarrassment, but from the knowledge that she was being observed by someone used to commanding respect without raising his voice. Oliver's small voice broke the silence with a question about the pancakes, and she turned, smiling gently, engaging him at eye level, explaining how they would make their own designs with chocolate chips and blueberries. Max and Lily watched eagerly, their earlier antics momentarily suspended as curiosity and excitement replaced the chaotic energy that had defined their morning. Ethan moved to the side, arms crossed, observing as Hannah guided each child with patience, setting boundaries without raising her voice, using gestures, soft encouragement, and clear instructions. Each child responded differently, yet the rhythm of her movements, the calm cadence of her words, created a harmony that seemed to surprise even the most skeptical observer. Ethan's expression softened imperceptibly, a hint of approval flashing across his otherwise stoic features. Hannah felt a surge of quiet triumph, knowing that each successful interaction, no matter how small, was a victory in the unspoken battle for control of the morning. She measured each ingredient carefully, pouring milk into bowls, cracking eggs with precision, and flipping pancakes with practiced ease, all while engaging in light conversation with the triplets, asking about their favorite stories, listening to their imaginative explanations of fantastical creatures, and responding with genuine interest. Ethan remained nearby, silent, yet undeniably present, his gaze sweeping the kitchen as he monitored the interplay, the dynamics, and the unspoken exchange between Hannah and his children. A subtle smile tugged at the corner of her mouth as Lily held up her pancake creation, a tower of blueberries balanced on a perfectly golden surface, and Hannah praised her effort, clapping her hands softly. Oliver and Max followed suit, their laughter ringing clear and pure, filling the room with warmth and a sense of accomplishment that Hannah had not expected to feel so intensely. Ethan finally spoke, his deep voice breaking the quiet. "They seem to respond to you better than I anticipated." Hannah turned, meeting his gaze, noting the rare softness there, a flicker of emotion hidden beneath the layers of discipline and control. She nodded, her own voice steady. "I think they just need someone to listen and let them make choices, even small ones." Ethan's eyes lingered on her for a moment longer, measuring, appreciating, and perhaps acknowledging the beginning of mutual respect. The children, now occupied with their breakfast, sat at the long dining table, their chatter filling the room, and Hannah moved among them, checking plates, refilling juice, adjusting chairs, her movements fluid and confident. The morning sunlight shifted, illuminating the intricate patterns of the chandelier above, reflecting off the polished surfaces, creating a scene of domestic triumph that contrasted sharply with the chaotic start. Ethan observed silently, yet every subtle gesture of Hannah's competence and kindness seemed to chip away at his initial reservations, and for the first time since her arrival, she felt the unspoken acknowledgement that she had found her footing. The triplets laughed, the pancakes disappeared faster than anyone had anticipated, and Hannah allowed herself a small exhale, a quiet moment of satisfaction before the next challenge inevitably arrived, knowing that this fragile balance was only the beginning of a relationship defined by patience, observation, and unexpected trust. By mid-morning, the rhythm of the Blackwood estate had settled into a fragile sense of order, a harmony orchestrated by Hannah's careful attention to every detail. every tiny ripple of the triplets' energy. The kitchen counters were clear, the pancakes had been eaten, and the laughter of Oliver, Lily, and Max filled the air with a buoyant sense of accomplishment. Hannah moved through the house with deliberate steps, tidying, organizing, and anticipating the next moment of chaos, her senses alert to every squeak of a sneaker or the rustle of a ribbon. Ethan remained in the living room, seated with perfect posture, his sharp gaze occasionally sweeping the rooms as he observed without interrupting, his presence a silent acknowledgement of the growing respect for the young woman who had taken command of his children's mourning. He did not speak, yet the air around him carried a weight, a subtle assertion of authority that pressed against the walls, demanding recognition. Hannah paused at the stair landing, glancing back at the dining area to ensure all three children were safely engaged in a quiet activity she had improvised, a small puzzle that required cooperation and focus. She smiled softly, noting how Oliver's frown of concentration and Max's tentative patience were signs of her influence beginning to take hold. Lily, clutching a small stuffed rabbit, hummed quietly as she placed each piece with deliberate care, her earlier mischievous energy channeled into creating order from chaos. Hannah's chest lifted with a quiet pride, her movements calm yet precise, when she heard Ethan's voice, low and measured, break the ambient hum of the house. "They respond to you in ways I did not anticipate," he said, and she turned to meet his gaze, noting the subtle approval in the tilt of his head, the faint crease in his brow that suggested he was analyzing every decision, every gesture she had made since arriving. She nodded, keeping her voice even, saying, "They need boundaries, consistency, and encouragement. That is all." Ethan's lips pressed into a thin line, then relaxed, a barely perceptible acknowledgement that she had mastered the art of command without resorting to overt control. Hannah exhaled silently, returning her attention to the puzzle table, guiding Oliver to gently hand pieces to Max, showing them how collaboration could yield results beyond individual effort. Max looked up, surprised by the success, and a small smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Lily mirrored it, her green eyes sparkling with quiet delight. Hannah's confidence grew. With every interaction, each small victory a testament to her ability to navigate the delicate balance between authority and empathy. Ethan observed, leaning slightly back in his chair, the corner of his mouth lifting almost imperceptibly as he noted how she had managed not only to contain the triplets' energy, but also to encourage cooperation, ingenuity, and engagement. The house, once filled with wild, uncontrolled laughter and scattered toys, now resonated with a rhythm orchestrated by Hannah's presence, a harmony punctuated by the children's giggles and the quiet efficiency of breakfast remnants being cleared and stored. Hannah paused at the kitchen doorway, surveying the scene, noting how each child had settled into a role of participation, how Oliver's curiosity had shifted toward problem-solving, Max's energy channeled into helping, and Lily's imagination refined by structure. She allowed herself a private moment of satisfaction, understanding that these fragile threads of order and influence had required observation, patience, and insight. Ethan's eyes met hers across the room, and in that shared glance there was an unspoken acknowledgement of competence, trust, and a beginning of mutual understanding. The morning had shifted from chaos to controlled engagement, a testament to Hannah's capability and adaptability, and as the children laughed and moved with a newfound cooperation, the mansion felt alive with the quiet power of her influence, the subtle respect of a man who measured control in careful observation and decisive action, and the fragile beginnings of a balance between challenge and care that would define the hours to come. By late morning, the sun had climbed higher, spilling warm light across the expansive windows of the Blackwood estate, highlighting the gleaming surfaces of the marble floors and the polished wood of the staircase. Hannah moved deliberately through the main hallway, her hands full of neatly folded laundry that had been tossed aside during the earlier frenzy, the faint scent of freshly laundered cotton blending with the lingering aroma of breakfast. Oliver, Max, and Lily were seated at the long dining table, coloring books and crayons spread before them, their focus a rare and precious gift, each child absorbed in their individual creativity, yet occasionally glancing at Hannah for guidance or approval. Ethan appeared silently in the doorway, his tall frame casting a long shadow across the floor, eyes scanning the children and their temporary orderly state, a faint crease forming between his brows as he noted her methods of engagement and gentle enforcement of rules. Hannah felt the weight of his gaze, a mix of assessment and intrigue, and she reminded herself that each decision mattered, each word and gesture shaping the dynamics of the household for the hours that remained. She knelt to assist Lily with a particularly tricky coloring section, guiding small hands without imposing, allowing the girl to maintain a sense of agency while subtly teaching patience and focus. Oliver and Max responded to small challenges she introduced, turning simple tasks into games of problem-solving, the room alive with laughter and quiet encouragement rather than chaos. Ethan moved closer, his voice calm but firm when he finally spoke. "Your approach is effective." They follow without resistance. Hannah glanced at him, acknowledging the compliment with a simple nod, aware that such recognition was rare from a man like him, and returned to the children, redirecting Oliver's attention from a misplaced crayon to a more constructive task, and praising Max for a careful selection of colors. Time passed in measured increments, punctuated by the occasional question from a curious child or the soft praise from Hannah, each interaction reinforcing boundaries, fostering cooperation, and deepening trust. Ethan continued to observe from his perch, noting not only the calm she had instilled but the confidence with which she navigated their unpredictability, the way she anticipated needs and diffused tension before it escalated. A small incident arose when Oliver knocked over a cup of juice, but Hannah reacted swiftly, guiding him to clean it up with gentle instruction and humor, turning a potential setback into a teaching moment, and the children laughed, learning the value of responsibility without fear or reprimand. Ethan's expression softened imperceptibly, a subtle sign that he appreciated the delicate balance she had achieved, and as he stepped back into the sunlight streaming through the windows, Hannah felt the quiet satisfaction of knowing she had earned a degree of trust, not only from the children, but from the man who had so meticulously scrutinized her every move. The morning continued with a sense of quiet purpose, activities flowing seamlessly from one to another, Hannah maintaining order while allowing the children room to express themselves, fostering an environment of engagement, respect, and gentle structure, each small victory a reinforcement of her capability and adaptability. As the clock edged toward noon, Ethan finally spoke. Again, low and deliberate, acknowledging her influence without diminishing her independence, a recognition of her presence, her skill, and the subtle authority she had begun to command within the household. The triplets, engaged and content, reflected the success of her efforts, their laughter and cooperative play a testament to her influence, and Hannah allowed herself a brief, private moment of triumph, aware that the fragile equilibrium she had created was as much a victory of insight and patience as it was of nurturing skill, and that the remainder of the day would build upon the foundation she had so carefully established. The afternoon sun filtered through the grand windows, casting warm patterns across the Blackwood estate, and Hannah felt the subtle shift in energy as the triplets, now slightly weary from their morning activities, began to move with a bit more attentiveness. Oliver carried a small basket of toys to the playroom, carefully placing each piece in its designated bin, while Max helped Lily gather markers and crayons that had strayed across the floor. Hannah's hands were steady as she guided them, her voice calm and measured, offering praise and gentle direction, reinforcing the routines she had established. Ethan remained near the doorway, his tall frame silent yet commanding, observing the children's compliance with a quiet appraisal that seemed to weigh each interaction. A soft breeze from the open windows brought the scent of blooming gardens into the room, mingling with the faint aroma of the pancakes they had eaten hours before, creating a domestic atmosphere that was surprisingly peaceful given the chaos that had defined the morning. Hannah paused to encourage Max to finish a drawing, kneeling beside him, and as she demonstrated a careful technique for blending colors, she noticed the subtle shift in Oliver's posture, his shoulders relaxing, the frown of concentration softening into a tentative smile. Ethan's gaze lingered on her, a silent acknowledgement that her patience, ingenuity, and ability to manage the children's energy without raising her voice were impressive. She turned to Lily, who had perched on the edge of a small ottoman, her stuffed rabbit clutched tightly, and guided her back to the table, suggesting they create a shared artwork together, transforming an earlier moment of independent play into a collaborative project. The children responded with laughter and excitement, their movements coordinated, their focus enhanced by Hannah's structured yet flexible approach. Ethan finally spoke, his deep voice steady and measured. They are learning boundaries and cooperation faster than expected, and Hannah nodded, keeping her response simple. It is a matter of engagement and consistency. He gave a faint, approving nod and moved to a side chair, observing rather than intervening, allowing her to continue guiding the children while maintaining an unobtrusive presence. Hannah moved with purpose, clearing away a small spill, redirecting energy toward constructive play, and encouraging dialogue among the triplets, fostering both creativity and responsibility. The interplay between the children and Hannah created a rhythm in the room, a pattern of action and response that brought a sense of order and satisfaction to the otherwise high-energy environment. Ethan's eyes followed her carefully, noting her ability to anticipate challenges, prevent small accidents, and reinforce positive behavior through quiet authority and subtle encouragement. Hannah took a moment to observe the collective success, feeling the confidence that came from seeing cooperation where earlier there had been chaos, understanding that each small step reinforced trust and respect, not only among the children, but between her and Ethan. She encouraged Oliver to assist Max with a shared puzzle, and Lily to contribute ideas for the artwork, prompting problem-solving, creativity, and teamwork, while Ethan observed with measured interest, noting the developing bonds and the influence Hannah had begun to establish. The children's laughter, collaboration, and attentive responses filled the room with a sense of accomplishment, and Hannah allowed herself a small internal exhale of relief, aware that each successful interaction was a victory in this carefully balanced dynamic. The estate, filled with sunlight and the sounds of constructive play, became a stage for the quiet power of guidance, patience, and measured influence, and Ethan's presence, while still imposing, felt less distant, a subtle shift acknowledging her ability to navigate the challenges of the household with skill, calm, and intelligence, setting the tone for the rest of the day and reinforcing the fragile equilibrium she had achieved. As the afternoon unfolded, the atmosphere in the Blackwood estate shifted once more, a quiet tension of anticipation weaving through the sunlit rooms. Hannah guided the triplets toward the playroom, their energy still abundant, but tempered by the structure she had instilled throughout the morning. Oliver carried a small toy train carefully in his hands. Max followed with a basket of building blocks, and Lily skipped beside them, her stuffed rabbit tucked securely under her arm. Hannah's eyes tracked each movement, offering guidance, encouragement, and gentle corrections where needed, her voice calm and steady, a thread of reassurance woven into every word. Ethan watched from the doorway, his expression unreadable yet observant, noting the subtle changes in the children's behavior, the attentiveness they now displayed, and the quiet authority Hannah had cultivated without raising her voice or imposing force. She knelt on the floor beside Max, helping him sort blocks by color and shape, demonstrating patience and precision, allowing him to grasp the concept without feeling rushed or pressured, and he responded with a tentative smile, the first of several small acknowledgments of his success. Oliver, curious and eager, leaned over to watch, and Hannah encouraged him to help Max place the blocks, turning the task into a cooperative activity that engaged both boys and reinforced teamwork. Lily, meanwhile, began creating a simple scene with her crayons, drawing small houses and gardens, her imagination blending seamlessly with the structure Hannah provided, and the harmony of their focused activity brought a calm energy that contrasted sharply with the earlier chaos. Ethan moved a step closer, silently assessing the rhythm of interaction, his sharp gaze noting the balance between freedom and guidance, and the subtle shifts in the children's behavior that reflected her influence. Hannah's movements were fluid as she transitioned from one child to another, adjusting a misplaced piece here, offering encouragement there, and guiding each of them to understand the value of collaboration and attentive care. The sunlight streaming through the large windows caught the glint of a crayon or the polished surface of a building block, reflecting the orderly energy she had instilled, and she allowed herself a quiet moment of satisfaction at the transformation she was witnessing. Ethan finally spoke, his voice measured and deliberate, They are responding to you with more focus than I anticipated. And Hannah nodded, her tone calm. Consistency and engagement make the difference. He gave a faint, approving nod, his eyes lingering on her briefly before returning to the children, a silent acknowledgement that her approach had earned respect and recognition. The triplets laughed and chatted as they completed their tasks, their voices blending in a harmonious rhythm that filled the estate with life, and Hannah moved among them, offering small praises, adjusting activities to maintain their focus, and ensuring that each child felt seen and valued. Ethan's posture relaxed slightly as he watched, the faintest softening of his features suggesting an appreciation not only for her skill, but also for the quiet strength and patience she displayed. Hannah observed the collective progress, understanding that her careful balance of structure, encouragement, and gentle authority had shifted the energy of the household, creating a sense of stability and cooperation that had been missing since her arrival. The estate felt lighter, the rooms brighter, and the atmosphere charged with the sense of accomplishment, not only for the children's successes, but for her own ability to navigate the complex dynamics of the Blackwood family. Each small victory, each shared smile, each moment of cooperation reinforced the growing trust and mutual understanding between Hannah, the triplets, and Ethan, laying the groundwork for the next phase of their unique and evolving relationship within the estate. As the afternoon wore on, a subtle hush settled over the Blackwood estate, the children now engaged in a quiet game that required teamwork, negotiation, and imagination. Hannah moved among them with the ease of someone who had grown accustomed to their rhythms, guiding Oliver as he carefully placed puzzle pieces, reminding Max to share his crayons, and offering gentle praise to Lily for her thoughtful additions to their collaborative drawing. Each gesture was deliberate, infused with patience and care, designed to reinforce the sense of order and cooperation she had worked to establish throughout the day. Ethan remained in the background, leaning against the doorway of the playroom, his posture relaxed but his eyes alert, noting the way Hannah anticipated every potential disruption, the subtle corrections she offered before situations could escalate, and the quiet authority she had cultivated without raising her voice or imposing fear. The sun shifted, casting long, warm beams across the polished floors, highlighting the careful arrangement of toys and materials, the children's focused expressions, and the calm determination on Hannah's face as she balanced guidance with freedom. Oliver looked up, a question forming on his lips, and Hannah knelt to meet his eye level, explaining with a calm tone how to connect the puzzle pieces in a way that would allow all three of them to contribute equally, turning a potential conflict into a collaborative learning experience. Max hesitated briefly, then followed her instructions, and the small success elicited a quiet cheer from Lily, who clapped her hands and returned to her drawing with renewed energy. Ethan observed in silence, his gaze flicking between the children and Hannah, noting the respect they displayed, the trust they were beginning to place in her, and the subtle ways she had transformed the atmosphere from one of unpredictable chaos to structured engagement. Hannah moved smoothly from one child to another, offering encouragement, setting boundaries, and celebrating small victories, her confidence growing as she saw the immediate effects of her approach. The room felt alive with energy that was no longer frenzied but directed, the laughter of the triplets harmonizing with the quiet focus of their tasks, the entire space infused with a sense of accomplishment and mutual understanding. Ethan finally spoke, his voice calm but measured. "They are responding to your presence, Hannah. They listen, they follow, and they engage with purpose." She acknowledged his words with a simple nod, her voice steady. It is the patience and consistency that allow them to feel secure and confident. He gave a small, approving smile, a rare expression that softened his otherwise stoic features, and Hannah felt a flicker of reassurance, knowing her approach had earned his recognition. The children continued their activities, Oliver carefully placing the final puzzle pieces, Max organizing his crayons neatly, and Lily completing the last strokes of their joint artwork, each child basking in the quiet sense of achievement Hannah had fostered. Ethan's eyes lingered on her for a moment longer, the subtle acknowledgement in his gaze a testament to her skill, determination, and quiet authority, and Hannah allowed herself a small, internal exhale of relief, aware that she had successfully navigated another chapter of the day. The playroom, once a scene of potential chaos, now reflected balance, cooperation, and respect, a space shaped not by force but by observation, guidance, and the thoughtful cultivation of trust. Hannah's movements remained purposeful, her voice steady, and her presence confident, as she continued to nurture the children's engagement, weaving together the threads of patience, structure, and encouragement that had transformed the energy of the estate and earned her a place of quiet authority within its walls. As the late afternoon sun began to soften, casting long, golden shadows across the Blackwood estate, Hannah felt a subtle shift in the energy of the house. The triplets, Oliver, Max, and Lily, had settled into a quiet rhythm, their earlier bursts of chaos now replaced with focused engagement, though occasional bursts of laughter punctuated the calm. Hannah moved between them, adjusting the placement of blocks, encouraging gentle collaboration, and reminding each child of the small rules that guided their activities, her voice steady and soothing, carrying authority without pressure. Ethan observed from the grand staircase, his presence commanding yet unobtrusive, his piercing blue eyes tracking every interaction, noting how Hannah anticipated potential disruptions before they occurred, redirecting energy with finesse, and maintaining a balance between structure and freedom. She paused at the sideboard, refilling the children's water cups, and glanced toward Ethan, whose expression remained unreadable but for a subtle softening in his gaze, an acknowledgement of her growing competence and influence. Lily looked up, her green eyes sparkling with curiosity, and asked a question about the drawing they were creating, prompting Hannah to kneel beside her, offering guidance while allowing the girl to maintain control over her own creation. Oliver and Max responded to subtle cues, following instructions with newfound attentiveness, their playful energy now channeled into collaborative problem-solving rather than spontaneous mischief. Hannah's hands moved with practiced precision as she guided them through tasks, occasionally pausing to offer praise, her tone gentle but confident, reinforcing both their sense of accomplishment and her quiet authority. Ethan stepped lightly into the room, his movements deliberate, his presence amplifying the sense of observation and careful consideration, yet he did not intervene directly, allowing Hannah's influence to take precedence while subtly reinforcing boundaries through his mere presence. The sunlight shifted, illuminating the polished floors and highlighting the small victories she had cultivated: organized play, shared laughter, and attentive listening. Hannah took a deep breath, savoring the calm that had replaced the morning's chaos, and noted the flicker of pride in Ethan's eyes, a silent acknowledgement of her skill in navigating the complex dynamics of his household. The children, sensing the balance, continued to engage enthusiastically, their confidence growing alongside their creativity, and Hannah encouraged them with gentle words and patient guidance, reinforcing positive behavior through consistency and empathy. Ethan's expression revealed a hint of admiration, a recognition of her ability to maintain control without overstepping, to foster cooperation without demand, and to cultivate trust without assertion. Hannah moved among the children, adjusting a misplaced piece here, offering constructive suggestions there, and celebrating their small achievements, creating an environment that blended guidance, learning, and playful engagement seamlessly. The estate, once charged with unpredictable energy, now hummed with the quiet satisfaction of order and accomplishment, and Hannah allowed herself a subtle sense of pride, understanding that each measured action, each patient word, and each moment of attentive care had shifted the household dynamic. Ethan's presence remained, not as a controller but as a silent witness to her capability, and the children thrived within the carefully structured environment she had created, their laughter, focus, and cooperation a testament to her influence. As the lights softened further, casting a gentle glow over the playroom, Hannah felt a profound sense of accomplishment, knowing that the delicate balance she had achieved was not only a reflection of her skill, but also a foundation for trust, respect, and quiet authority that would carry through the remainder of their shared day. As the evening approached, a soft amber light filled the Blackwood estate, filtering through the tall windows and painting the rooms in warm hues that softened the edges of the day's activities. Hannah moved gracefully among the triplets, now calm and engaged, each child absorbed in a quiet activity that encouraged thought, creativity, and gentle interaction. Oliver carefully stacked his blocks, Max arranged the colored pencils with precision, and Lily added the final touches to their shared artwork. Their laughter now mingled with quiet conversation, a testament to the structure and patience Hannah had instilled. She knelt beside them, offering gentle encouragement and subtle guidance, her hands deftly assisting where necessary without taking over, allowing each child to experience success on their own terms. Ethan observed from the corner of the living room, his tall figure relaxed but attentive, noting the harmony that had replaced the morning's chaos, and the careful balance Hannah had maintained between authority and empathy. Her voice, steady and warm, carried instructions that were absorbed without resistance, creating a flow of cooperation and shared focus that had become the rhythm of the household. Hannah glanced up briefly at Ethan, sensing the quiet acknowledgement in his piercing blue eyes, a recognition of her skill, patience, and the influence she had cultivated over the triplets in such a short time. She moved to adjust a misplaced puzzle piece, Oliver leaning over to offer his assistance as she encouraged Max to share crayons with Lily, weaving each interaction seamlessly into the next, fostering teamwork, patience, and attentive listening. Ethan's gaze lingered on her, noting the way her calm presence diffused potential frustration, encouraged collaboration, and instilled confidence, not only in the children, but subtly in himself as well. The sun's fading light glinted off the polished surfaces, highlighting the children's focused expressions and the quiet satisfaction of small accomplishments that punctuated their activities. Hannah continued to navigate each moment with precision, praising success, offering guidance, and redirecting attention where needed, her quiet authority shaping the flow of the household without force or pressure. The triplets responded to her subtle cues, following instructions with a growing sense of pride, their laughter and conversation a melody of achievement and joy. Ethan stepped closer, his voice calm and measured, acknowledging the impact of her presence. You have earned their trust and attention, Hannah. They respect you and follow willingly. She met his gaze, a faint smile acknowledging the compliment. It is consistency, patience, and care that allow them to feel secure, and return to guiding the children through a shared task that required cooperation, creativity, and attentive listening. The mansion, once alive with unpredictability and bursts of energy, now resonated with the steady rhythm of thoughtful engagement, collaborative effort, and mutual respect. Hannah's confidence grew with each successful interaction, the children thriving under her guidance, and Ethan's presence, though silent at times, reinforced the subtle balance she had achieved. As the amber light deepened, shadows stretching across the polished floors, Hannah allowed herself a brief moment of reflection, aware that the harmony, focus, and trust she had cultivated would carry them through the evening, and that her influence had not only shaped the children's behavior, but also earned the measured acknowledgement of the man whose authority had initially seemed insurmountable, cementing her role as a calm, capable, and trusted presence within the Blackwood estate.